You are about to watch the exact moment Keir Starmer's operating system completely crashes. In this clip, Labour MP Sarah Owen corners him over the £3,000 cut to disability benefits and the £11 billion cost of ignoring women's health. Watch as Starmer tries to dodge raw, heartbreaking constituent emails by talking about guiding principles and consultation periods, only to realize he has absolutely nowhere to hide. This is a masterclass in political squirming, and we are going to break down every painful second of it. Let's watch the clip.
I noted in your response to Ms. Abrahams earlier the first question around wanting more disabled people to be able to work, and I think that's something that we all would like to see, that employers actually make the reasonable adjustments for people to access work. However, there are a group of people which the government's own assessments show that they are the most severely disabled group. These are people with limited capability for work-related activity. And for the future ones of those, there will be £3,000 worse off. This isn't a small group of people, this is potentially 730,000 people. So I want to ask you right now about how people are feeling about this. It's not often something we talk about in politics, but I think it is important because it's fair to say that your proposed changes to welfare reform have caused quite a bit of stress, I think, particularly among people with disabilities and their families. I'm sure many members have had similar things, but just some samples of what's come into my inbox. I am beyond stressed with anticipation of losing money. I have £700 to live on this month. Another one, the proposed cuts to disability benefits have left me feeling full of panic about the future and extremely let down. And the last one, I feel so sick, physically sick. The whole process is horrid. Please represent me. Prime Minister, what would you say to them?
Well, I think this question of how people feel and values is really important. And that's why sort of standing back from the technicalities of any changes, the guiding principles are really important, which is those people that do need support and protection should get support and protection. Those that want to bridge into work should be supported by the government to bridge into work. At the moment, my own analysis is that pretty well all of the rules make it harder for people to get into work, not easier for them to get into work. But equally, those that can work should work. And we need to just apply those principles to the work that we are doing as we go along.
Prime Minister, my question was specifically about the people that are very unlikely to ever be able to work, the most severely disabled, of which in future there will be £3,000 worse off. And I just wanted to ask how you're working with the disabilities charities and organisations for which none of them that I can see have welcomed these plans. And I just wondered, I know that we're going through a consultation period.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask whether this is a consultation period on the policy itself or the impact of this policy, because I think that is very different. Will this consultation period actually alter or be able to change or perhaps bring people together on this in a way that we haven't been so far?
Well, I do want to bring people together on this, and it's very important we take different views into account. It's also important for people who have disabilities, which means they can never work, that they're not constantly reassessed, because certainly that's something I've picked up as a constant cause of anxiety, and that's why I personally think we should be doing more protection, a premium for those that are in the most severe category and never going to be able to work, and also relieve them of the pressure of being reassessed when we know that the reassessment isn't going to make any material difference. So I do think there are things that we can do that will reform the system for the better. And certainly we need to take views into account in relation to that.
Okay. And we all agree that we do want to see people and more people into work. But I just wanted to ask why it is that the government have looked at disabled people first. One of my inquiries from my committee was around medical misogyny and people missing work due to heavy periods, painful periods, endometriosis, fibroids, ovarian cysts cost the UK economy nearly £11 billion every year. That's £11 billion. Would it perhaps not be more effective or just as effective to deal with the crisis in women's health? And what's the plan from the government to tackle that?
Well, there's a lot of work going into women's health across the government, and it's very important that we do that as well. And there are bits of guidance and legislation that we are bringing forward. So it is very important we bear down on that for all the reasons that you've said.
Prime Minister, it can take around average, for a woman to be only diagnosed alone, 8 to 10 years for endometriosis, one of the most painful, debilitating illnesses there are for women's reproductive selves. And if we are taking 8 to 10 years, that is 8 to 10 years that a woman's potentially out of the workplace, which is why we are seeing the cost of the economy at £11 billion. If we're looking at effective ways to get people into work, perhaps there are other areas that we should be exploring as well.
I completely agree with that, and that sort of time frame is just completely unacceptable. We've tasked the Health Secretary with reforming the NHS, and in particular dealing with health inequalities as he does so, because it is an example which is simply unacceptable. It's not capable of justification, and the health service needs to be set up to deal with, and I think it could and should be. That isn't just about pumping more money in. I do think there are other things that we can do in the health service, but that will be part of the work that the Health Secretary has already been charged with doing, because the example he gives is a very bad example. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that could be justified, because it can't.
Now onto the roast, and oh my word, did Starmer walk straight into the oven with this one. Sarah Owen, armed with nothing but a stack of disability benefit testimonies and a voice dripping with moral clarity, lobbed the kind of question that even the most seasoned spin doctor would have faked a fire drill to escape. She starts cool as you like. I noted in your response to Ms. Abrahams earlier, and already you can sense the tension building, like that moment in a horror movie where the violin screeches just a little too long. The topic? Welfare reform. Specifically, how Keir's new plans are going to leave up to 730,000 severely disabled people worse off by £3,000. That's right, £3,000. Not £30, and not some ministerial lunch budget. £3,000 per person.
Gone. Poof.
Vanished into the policy fog. And here's Keir, bless him, attempting to paddle upstream using a soggy mission statement as an oar. Well, I think the question of how people feel and values is really important.
Oh dear.
The moment someone starts using phrases like standing back from the technicalities, you know they're basically saying, I haven't the foggiest idea what's going on, but I hope this empathy-scented fog bomb distracts you. But Sarah's not having it. She barrels on, eyes locked, parliamentary voice now a chainsaw of polite fury. She reminds him this isn't about people who might one day work. This is about those who, by the government's own assessment, never will. And what's the reward for their suffering? A cool £3,000 cut. Cheers, lads. She rattles off her constituents' words, real, painful words. One says, I'm beyond stressed. Another, I feel so sick. A third begs, please represent me. The House goes silent, metaphorically, if not literally. And what does the Prime Minister offer in return? Another wobbly custard tart of an answer, talking about taking views into account and bridging into work, as if that helps people who can't even get out of bed some days. But Sarah's not done yet. Oh no, because this isn't just about one injustice. It's about a pattern. She flips the script to something no one saw coming. Medical misogyny. That's right. While the government obsesses over shaving pennies off disability support, women across the UK are losing billions in economic productivity due to undiagnosed, untreated, and flat-out ignored reproductive health conditions. And just to sprinkle some statistical dynamite onto this policy pie, she calmly informs the Prime Minister that endometriosis alone costs the UK £11 billion a year. That's billion with a B, folks. While women suffer silently, Starmer's spreadsheets are out here trying to balance themselves on the backs of the most vulnerable. So Sarah asks, with the subtle menace of a barista about to blow a hole through a defense case, would it not be more effective to deal with the crisis in women's health? It's a mic drop, but with parliamentary protocol. And Starmer? He fumbles back into the source, mumbling something about a lot of work going into women's health across the government. That's like saying there's a lot of work going into fixing a leaky roof while it's actively raining in the living room. And yet Sarah persists, because she knows what's at stake. He points out it can take 8 to 10 years just to be diagnosed with endometriosis. That's not a typo. That's a lost decade. An entire 20 swallowed by NHS referrals and GP shrugs. Imagine living with chronic, debilitating pain and being told repeatedly, it's just your cycle. Then imagine being told the government wants you back at work ASAP with zero support. Make it make sense, Prime Minister. And still, what does Starmer give in return? More platitudes. A nod to health inequalities. A vague waft of reform, like cold steam rising off yesterday's tea. He even says, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that can be justified. And yet, funnily enough, that's exactly what he's doing. He is quite literally sitting there, trying to justify it with polite-sounding inertia. The man could win gold in policy tap dancing if it were an Olympic sport. Let's be honest, this wasn't a debate. This was a parliamentary disassembly, executed by a woman who came prepared not just with facts, but with lived experience, public voices, and a moral compass sharp enough to slice through the woolliest Whitehall briefing. And Starmer? He looked less like a PM-in-waiting and more like a first-year intern trying to explain where the toner went. It's not that he doesn't care, let's be generous. It's that his answers suggest a man permanently stuck in committee mode, endlessly consulting, rarely deciding, and allergic to anything resembling a firm yes or no. What makes it even more painful is that this could have been a moment to lead. A chance to say, you're right, this is wrong, we'll fix it. Instead, we got a human spreadsheet reciting a policy memo like bedtime reading. Meanwhile, Sarah Owen was practically carrying the moral backbone of the entire chamber. You could almost hear MPs across the aisle thinking, remind me why we're not letting her run things? And let's not ignore the wider picture. We're in a cost of living crisis. The NHS is on life support. People are choosing between heating and eating. And what's Westminster doing? Pondering how to means test dignity. The irony writes itself. They say politics is the art of the possible. But under some leaders, it seems more like the art of the politely implausible. This exchange exposed exactly that. A prime ministerial contender who can't even defend his own policy in a way that connects to human beings. It's like trying to sell ice to penguins. Wrong product, wrong pitch, wrong audience. But Sarah, she wasn't there to play games. She didn't blink. She didn't flinch. She didn't raise her voice. She did what so few in politics remember how to do. She represented. She brought real stories, hard truths, and uncomfortable questions. She delivered accountability with compassion. And Starmer? He reminded us that sometimes the most dangerous thing in politics isn't the opposition, it's the empty suit on your own side. So here we are, folks. Another day, another debate, but this one felt different. It cut through. It lingered. It made people think. And in an era of spin, soundbites, and stalling, that's more revolutionary than you'd think. Sarah Owen didn't just win the exchange. She left a mark on the whole debate. She reminded everyone that politics isn't about polished performances. It's about people. Real ones. With real problems. And if leadership can't answer for that, maybe it's time we stop asking and start replacing.
Now, over to you.
Did Keir Starmer give a single straight answer today? Was Sarah Owen the only adult in the room? Why is it always the backbench asking the questions the front bench won't touch? Should we stop electing managers and start electing advocates? Drop your thoughts in the comments.